At the annual family reunion, my twin sister loudly declared, "I'm the successful twin." She still lives with our parents. While toasting to her new house, she whispered, "Must SEK to be the embarrassment." 3 months later, her fiancé showed up at my door. I was holding a paper plate with 3 deviled eggs and a sad scoop of coleslaw. I smiled. I even raised my glass, like I wasn't dying inside. Then she leaned in, her voice low and syrupy, and said, "Must SEK to be embarrassed." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that's what I do. I laugh when I'm hurt. When I want to scream. When I feel like I'm disappearing into the floor. My name's Kala. 34. Divorced. Jobless. Well, not exactly. I do freelance editing gigs when I can get them. Living with my parents in the same New Jersey house I grew up in. It's not glamorous, but it's mine for now. Margot, my twin, is everything I'm not. Glamorous. Loud. Charismatic in the way that makes people lean in and hang on to her every word. She's in real estate and apparently culling it. Bought a new house just outside Philadelphia. Drives a BMW. Gets her nails done every week. She talks like a TED Talk and walks like she's always being filmed. And she hates me. Well, maybe that's the wrong word. It's worse than hate. It's contempt. Like I'm a reminder of everything she's trying not to be. That night at the party, while people laughed and buzzed around her, I just kept repeating her words in my head. The embarrassment. Like I'm some stain she can't scrub out. Our mom pretended not to hear. Dad drank his 3rd beer and stared at the grill. No one said anything. They never do. After everyone left, I helped clean up. Margot drove off with her fiancé. He's tall, clean-cut, with one of those calm, deep voices that make everything sound important. He barely looked at me all night. Didn't stop her from bragging about him, though. "He's everything I ever wanted," she told Aunt Rita in a voice just loud enough for me to hear. "A real man, not some loser who runs back home crying after life gets hard. Cool. Subtle." I didn't even say goodbye when she left. Just waved. I didn't know it'd be the last time I'd see her like that. Because 3 months later, Renaa showed up at my door. It was a rainy Tuesday. I'd just finished microwaving leftover Chinese and was planning to binge some low-budget detective show. I wasn't wearing a bra. Hair was in a messy bun. One sock on, one off. Basically peak adulting. The doorbell rang. I figured it was a package or maybe the neighbor's dog wandered over again. It wasn't. It was him. Soaked coat. Hair dripping. Eyes wide. "Kala," he said. He looked lost. Hi," I said, gripping my container of orange chicken. "Can I talk to you? Please." Now, in hindsight, I should have closed the door. I mean, what the hell was Margot's fiancé doing at my house unannounced? But something in his face stopped me. I stepped aside. "Kitchen's warmer," I mumbled. He followed me in, shook off his coat, and stood there like a stray dog afraid to sit on the furniture. "You want tea or something?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, that's good." We sat across from each other, steam rising between us. Then he said, "I think Margot's been lying to me. About a lot of things." I blinked. "Okay." He pulled something from his coat. A small shoebox. Opened it. Inside were photos, letters, little trinkets. "Found this in her closet," he said. "She said if I had questions, I should come ask you." I frowned. Picked up a photo. It was us. Me and Margot at 9 years old, arms around each other, identical gap-toothed grins. I hadn't seen that picture in 20 years. "She told me you were in Florida," he said. "Said you stole from your parents. That you had mental issues. That you were dangerous." I stared at him. "She what?" He nodded. I believed her. Until I found this stuff. And started noticing cracks. Little lies. Weird stories. Inconsistencies. He paused. Looked up. "She said you used to pretend to be her. That you flirted with her boyfriends. Tried to ruin her relationships." I laughed. Loud and bitter. "She's been saying that since high school. Because one guy she liked kissed me at a party. I didn't even know who he was." Renaa looked like he'd been hit. "She kept every letter you wrote her," he said. "Every card. Every picture. But never mentioned your name. Not once in 2 years." I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything. "I don't think I ever really knew her," he said quietly. We sat in silence. The tea went cold. My orange chicken congealed on the counter. "Why are you here, Renaa?" I asked finally. He looked up. His eyes were tired. "I needed the truth," he said. "And I think I needed you." He stayed for an hour. Then 2. We talked. I told him about our childhood, about the way Margot changed after college, how she'd started lying about little things, where she was, who she knew, what she'd done. She always needed to be the best, I said. Even when no one was keeping score. He nodded like he understood. But he didn't. Not yet. He started visiting more often after that. Said he needed space. Said he and Margot were on a break, though we both knew what that meant. I told my parents he was just a friend. They gave me looks but didn't ask. One night, after too much wine and a conversation about grief and disappointment, we kissed. It wasn't planned. It wasn't fireworks. It was slow, sad, honest. He pulled away first. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have let you, I said. But we both knew it would happen again. And it did. I tried to tell myself it was a mistake. That it wasn't revenge. That it wasn't about Margot. But that was a lie. I'd spent years being her shadow. The broken twin. The joke. The failure. And now, finally, she was losing something. It felt like justice. But guilt doesn't care about justice. It creeps in anyway. A week later, Margot showed up. No warning. Just stormed through the front door like she still lived there. What the hell is he doing here? She screamed. Renaa came into the hallway, calm but pale. I came to talk to Kala, he said. She laughed. A cold, bitter sound. Oh, I bet you did. Margot, I said, stepping between them. Don't, she snapped. Don't pretend you're the victim here. I didn't pretend anything, I said. You're the one who's been lying. To him. To everyone. I was protecting him from you. No, you were protecting your image. That shut her up. She stared at me, eyes full of something that wasn't quite rage. It was deeper. Older. You've always wanted what I had, she whispered. Always. I shook my head. No. I just wanted peace. And that's when she slapped me. Right across the cheek. Hard. Mom screamed. Dad ran in. Renaa stepped forward, but I held up a hand. Margot stood there, chest heaving, like she couldn't believe what she'd just done. Then she turned and walked out. She didn't look back. After Margot walked out, nobody spoke for a while. Mom just stood there near the hallway, hand over her mouth, eyes brimming. Dad leaned back against the wall like he needed it to hold him up. Renaa was beside me, tense, jaw tight. I touched my cheek. It stung. She hit you, Dad finally said, low and disbelieving. Mom closed her eyes. Oh God. She's not okay, I said. My voice was calm, too calm. She hasn't been for a long time. No one argued. No one jumped to defend her. Which, honestly, shocked me more than the slap. Dad nodded slowly. I'll call her. Let her cool off, I said. And with that, we all sort of drifted apart for the night, like little boats after a storm. No one had the energy to talk about what had just happened. No one wanted to be the first one to say how bad things really were. Renaa stayed on the couch. I didn't ask him to, but he stayed. Neither of us said much. I brought him a blanket, some water. He gave me this long look like he wanted to say something but couldn't figure out where to start. I nodded silent. We didn't need to speak. Some things just settle in the air between people. Heavy. Unspoken. The next day, the phone started ringing. Aunt Rita called to say Margot had come to her house in tears, claiming I was trying to steal her life. That I'd estucade her fiancé, manipulated him. That I'd always been jealous of her and now I was finally trying to take what was hers. I didn't even know how to respond. Uncle Marty texted me later, just a simple, "Did you really go behind your sister's back?" I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? Margot had always been the family darling. The one with the big stories, the one who showed up to Thanksgiving with expensive wine and stories about real estate clients who bought million-dollar homes. I was the one who quietly helped Mom with the dishes, the one people asked about with awkward pity. And what's Kala up to these days? So when the narrative flipped, some people refused to believe it. A few cousins blocked me on social media. One of Margot's friends from college messaged me a paragraph calling me a home-wrecking sociopath. A family group chat I didn't even know I was in exploded with messages I couldn't bring myself to read. But not everyone turned away. Cousin Ray called and said, "Okay, what really happened?" Because Margot showed up here sobbing and breaking things. I told her everything. By the end, she let out a long breath. Jesus, Kala. I always knew she had a mean streak, but this. Yeah. She said Renaa was sleeping in his car. That you kicked him out. He's on our couch, I said, and Ray laughed. Just once dry and sad. She's unraveling. And she was. We heard from mutual friends that Margot had taken a leave of absence from work. That she was seen crying in the Whole Foods parking lot. She went to a bar one night and tried to get the bartender to call Renaa and tell him what he's missing. It would have been funny if it didn't feel like watching someone drown. I didn't want to gloat. I didn't feel victorious. Mostly I felt numb. Renaa was quiet during those weeks. He helped around the house, ran errands with Dad, even fixed the leak in the basement no one had gotten to. He was there, but not there, like a ghost still learning to be alive again. We had a routine. Morning coffee. Quiet dinners. He'd ask if I was okay. I'd say yes, even when I wasn't. One night, about a month after the slap, I found him in the backyard, staring up at the stars with a beer in hand. You ever wonder what the hell we're doing? He asked. All the time, I said, sitting beside him on the deck. He took a sip, then glanced at me. Do you think I'm a coward? No, I ran. From her. From everything. I shrugged. Maybe. But sometimes you have to run to figure out where you're going. He looked at me for a long time. I loved her once. I know. But she wasn't who I thought. I know that too. He hesitated, then asked, what does that make me? If I loved her. And now I'm here? With you. I didn't answer. I didn't know how. So I reached for his hand. He let me. That night, he kissed me again. And this time it wasn't sad. It wasn't guilt. It was real. Still complicated. Still messy. But real. Around that time, Margot stopped responding to texts. Not just mine, everyone's. Even Mom couldn't reach her. She'd gone dark. Dad tried calling her once a week, always leaving a voicemail. Just checking in, kiddo. Call back when you're ready. She never did. Then one afternoon, Mom came into the living room holding a letter. Real paper. Handwritten envelope. It's from Margot, she said, her voice strange. She handed it to me. My name was on the front. No return address. Just my name in Margot's sharp, slanted handwriting. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Inside was a single page. 3 lines. You win. I hope he was worth it. Don't contact me again. No greeting. No sign-off. Just that. I folded it back up. My hands were shaking. She sent one to me too, Mom said quietly. Said she's moving. Somewhere upstate. Said not to call. Dad didn't say anything for a long time. Then he stood up, walked to the back door and muttered, I'm going to mow the lawn. That was his thing. When emotions got too big, he mowed. Renaa read the letter that night. She's trying to erase us, he said. She doesn't know how to lose, I said. He nodded. But she already did. I didn't feel triumphant. Just tired. I'm so tired. Things quieted after that. The drama settled like dust on furniture no one used anymore. The family stopped asking. The texts stopped coming. Even the group chats went silent. Renaa and I started building a rhythm. Not quite a relationship. Not yet. Just something fragile and new. We went to the farmer's market together. Took walks. Argued about what to watch at night. He fixed things. I edited resumes and short stories for college kids. It wasn't glamorous. But it was life. Real life. For a while, it really did feel like Margot had vanished off the face of the earth. No social media. No emails. No calls. The kind of silence that doesn't feel like peace. It feels like something's waiting. Coiled. Watching. Mom stopped bringing her up, but you could see it in her face every time the phone rang. This quiet hope followed by quiet disappointment. Dad kept mowing the lawn twice a week. Sometimes 3. I tried to keep myself busy. Took on more freelance work. Even started helping out at a little indie bookstore downtown that was barely hanging on. Renaa and I started seeing each other more regularly. Officially unofficial. There were no labels, no declarations, just the slow, steady rhythm of 2 people trying to build something from the wreckage. Some nights, he'd stay over, sleep curled around me like he was afraid I'd disappear too. Other nights, he'd go back to his apartment in town, saying he needed time to think, to process. I understood. I was still processing too. But as weeks turned into months, I started noticing things. Little things. Like the way Mom would stare out the window for long stretches of time. Or how the mail started coming addressed to Margot again. Catalogs. Bank statements. One envelope from a law firm in Albany. I asked Dad about it once, and he just muttered, forwarded, I guess. But it didn't sit right with me. And then the letter came. It was a crisp manila envelope, addressed to me directly. No return address. Just a typed label with my name on it. Inside was a copy of a restraining order. Margot had filed it in upstate New York. It claimed harassment, emotional distress, accused me of malicious interference in a long-term relationship. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, hands trembling, rereading the words until they blurred. Calla. Renaa's voice was quiet. I handed him the paper. He read it. Didn't speak for a full minute. This is insane, he finally said. She's trying to erase me legally now, I whispered. She can't do that. None of this even makes sense. You haven't contacted her. She's the one who came to you. I nodded slowly. It's not about what's true. It's about what hurts. We lawyered up, which felt ridiculous and terrifying at the same time. My savings took a hit. Renaa chipped in, despite my protests. She can't keep rewriting reality, he said. You have to protect yourself. We filed a response. It never made it to court. Margot withdrew it 3 weeks later with no explanation. No apology. No contact. But the damage had been done. I started getting migraines again. Ones that wrapped around my head like a vice and left me in bed for hours. Renat found me one afternoon curled up on the bathroom floor, crying quietly, trying not to wake my parents. I can't do this again, I whispered. You're not alone, he said. But it didn't feel like enough. I was tired of being the target. Tired of being the problem, the embarrassment, the villain in her story. So I started digging. I didn't even realize I was doing it at first. Just little things. Googling the name of the law firm from the envelope, tracing the address. It led me to a real place, a firm that specializes in estate law and personal disputes. Then I searched for Margot's name. Nothing on Facebook. But I found a wedding registry. Her name. He wasn't Renat. It was a man named Elias Grant. Age 52. Divorced. Real estate developer. The wedding was in 2 months. I stared at the screen, heartbeat thudding. Renat, I called softly. He came into the room, holding a mug of tea. What is it? I turned the laptop toward him. His face didn't change much. Just a long, slow blink. Then he exhaled through his nose. Of course, he said. Of course she'd skip town and find someone new. Rich, older, established. Someone who doesn't know her past. She's getting married. He nodded. Sounds about right. She filed a restraining order against me while planning a wedding. She wants to burn the whole bridge down behind her. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. What do I do? He sat beside me, took my hand. Nothing. Let her live in her fantasy. You've got a real life here. But that wasn't enough for me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. About this man, Elias. About what Margot was telling him. What parts of herself she was scrubbing clean and repackaging. Did she tell him I was dead? That I ran off and joined a cult? That we'd never even existed in the same family? The idea of her wedding felt like the final nail in a coffin shed built for me. Neat. Tidy. A life without me in it. But life doesn't stay tidy. 2 weeks later, I was at the bookstore helping with the weekend author event when Renat walked in, face pale. We need to talk, he said quietly. I followed him outside. He handed me his phone. An email. No sender name, just a string of random characters. The message was short. You don't know who you're sleeping next to. She's been lying to you, too. Ask her about Brent. Brent. My ex-husband. I felt the blood drain from my face. What is this? I whispered. Renat shook his head. I don't know. But someone's trying to stir things up. I hadn't said Brent's name out loud in over a year. The last time I saw him, he was in a courtroom, smirking like he'd already won. Our divorce was messy. Financial manipulation, infidelity, emotional abuse. The works. And the worst part? Margot sided with him. They'd gone out for drinks once to talk. She said she wanted to hear his side. He told her I was unstable, controlling, a liar. She believed him. She told our entire family I was probably exaggerating. What do you think it means? I asked, my throat tight. Renat was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at me, eyes full of something I couldn't read. Kaya, is there anything you haven't told me? And just like that, the floor dropped out beneath me. His question hung in the air longer than it probably should have. Kaya, is there anything you haven't told me? I stared at him, my chest tight, fingers numb. I hadn't heard Brent's name in months, and now it felt like all the air had been set out of the street. I swallowed. Why would someone bring up Brent? Renat didn't answer right away. He was still looking at me, but now it was like he was trying to see something beneath my skin. I don't know, he said slowly. But it feels deliberate. I looked away, watched a couple walk past us with iced coffees and a golden retriever in a bandana like it was just another ordinary Saturday. I didn't tell you about him because I didn't think I needed to, I said finally. I thought I left that part of my life behind. Maybe you didn't. The words stung more than I expected. I turned back to him. What exactly are you asking me right now? He hesitated. Did you lie to me? I laughed, soft, bitter. About what? About how he cheated. How did he empty our savings? How did he tell my parents I was insane? Renat looked down, rubbed his hands together. I'm just saying this email didn't come out of nowhere. Someone knows about him. Someone who wants me to question you. Great, I muttered, pacing. So now I've got Margot poisoning half the family and someone else sending you mystery emails trying to make me look like I'm keeping secrets. You kind of are. I stopped in my tracks. My breath hitched. I didn't hide Brent, I said quietly. I just didn't. Unpack him. Renat nodded slowly. Okay. But the damage was done. Something in the air between us had shifted. Something small but sharp. like a splinter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid there staring at the ceiling, trying to remember everything I ever told or didn't tell Renaa. How much of my past had I shared? How much had I glossed over because it was just too damn exhausting to relive? I met Brent when I was 26 at a work conference in Chicago. He was charming in that slick, unthreatening way. Wore good shoes. Said all the right things. Within 6 months, we were living together. Within a year, I got married. By the end of the second year, he was controlling everything. Our money. My wardrobe. Who I talked to. He used concern like a weapon. You've been so emotional lately. I just don't want you to embarrass yourself. I think you need help, Kala. When I found out about the affair with someone 10 years younger who worked at his gym, I packed a bag and left. But it wasn't that easy. He knew how to twist things. Knew how to smile and lie through his teeth. Said I was unstable. Said I had mood swings. Told Margot I once threw a plate at him during an argument, which was technically true, but he left out the part where he called me a pathetic waste of space 10 seconds earlier. Margot ate it up. She even invited him to her housewarming. I remember sitting there on the couch that day, watching my sister and my ex-husband laugh over a bottle of wine, and wondering how I'd ever ended up in such a backwards version of my own life. I told Renaa bits and pieces of this. Never the whole picture. Not because I was hiding it, but because it was a part of me I didn't want to be anymore. But now it was back, scratching at the door. A few days after the email, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Something told me to. Kaya. My heart dropped. Brent. Wow. Still recognize my voice. That's either flattering or concerning. I didn't say anything. He sighed dramatically. Look, before you hang up, I didn't send the email. What email? Cute. Renaa's been sniffing around. I got a call from some mutual friend saying you're playing house now. I felt my fingers tighten around the phone. What do you want, Brent? I just think it's funny, he said, his voice smug. You, running around acting like the victim when you were no walk in the park yourself. You cheated on me. You drained our account. You gaslit me for years. And you were a nightmare to live with. Moody. Insecure. Always suspicious. Maybe I wouldn't have cheated if you hadn't pushed me away. I closed my eyes. I'm not doing this. Tell Renaa I said hi, he said before I hung up. I stood there in the hallway, the dial tone buzzing in my ear like a drill. I felt sick. And then it hit me. If it wasn't Brent, who did send the email? I started retracing everything. Emails. Messages. Old contacts. I even called Ray to ask if she'd heard anything weird. She hadn't. I mean, unless Margot's pulling something again. My stomach dropped. Could it be her? Could Margot have dragged Brent into this too? I wouldn't have put it past her. But why? Why now? Was it jealousy? Rage? Or just some desperate attempt to reassert control over a narrative she felt slipping away? Renaa and I sat down that night, both of us a little quieter than usual. I talked to him, I said. Brent. Renaa raised an eyebrow. You called him? He called me. Said he didn't send the email. Sounded like he knew about us, though. Renaa looked down at his drink. I'm sorry, I added. I should have told you more. About everything. He nodded. It's not about your past. I've been burned before too. I reached across the table and took his hand. So let's stop burning each other. He looked at me, really looked, and nodded again. This time with something softer in his eyes. We were okay for now. But I knew we were on a KN phase edge. And I still didn't know who was holding the other end. Weeks passed, and things between Renaa and me began to settle into something that felt like peace. Not perfection, not fairy tale level bliss, just stillness. Stability. It was new for both of us. But the email lingered in my mind like a mosquito bite you keep scratching in your sleep. And then there was the matter of Margot's wedding. The date was getting closer. No one had heard from her. Not even Mom. Until one morning, she called. I was in the garden with Renaa, trying to figure out why the tomato plant was growing sideways. Mom peeked her head out the back door. She called, she said. Just like that. I stood up. Margot. She nodded. She said she needed something from the attic. Asked if we'd be out of the house this weekend. Did she say why? No, I glanced at Renaa, who had already stopped pretending to be interested in the tomato plant. Something didn't sit right. She didn't ask to talk to me. She didn't apologize. Just wanted to rummage through our attic while we weren't around. I'm not going anywhere, I said. Mom didn't argue. She showed up that Saturday morning in a sleek silver car that looked freshly detailed. Hair immaculate. Big sunglasses. The kind you wear when you think someone might recognize you, or when you're hiding something. She didn't look surprised to see me standing on the front porch. Didn't realize you'd be here, she said, smiling too hard. I didn't smile back. This is still my house, Margot. Her lips pressed into a line. I just need a few things. I'll be quick. I followed her inside, silent. She went straight to the attic and started pulling boxes. She didn't say what she was looking for. Just muttered under her breath and shoved things around like she was on a deadline. I leaned against the doorway. So, how's Elias? She froze. Her back was to me, but I saw her shoulders stiffen. I wouldn't know, she said, voice flat. What does that mean? She turned. Her eyes behind the sunglasses were unreadable. He called off the wedding. I raised my eyebrows. Oh. She inhaled through her nose. Someone sent him an anonymous package. Copies of texts. Screenshots of emails. Photos. Of what? Of you. And Rena. Together. My stomach dropped, but I didn't flinch. I didn't send him anything. I know. Now I was confused. She tossed a photo onto the attic floor. I looked down. It was a picture of her. With Brent. Dinner. Candles. Hand on his chest. My eyes widened. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You're not the only one who knows how to dig, Kala. Wait, you were the one with Brent? She shrugged. Briefly. He's pathetic, but useful. Everything clicked at once. The email. The phone call. The timing. You used him. To espotage me. I didn't have to try very hard. You've got a habit of imploding on your own. I stepped forward, anger buzzing in my ears. You really thought breaking up my life would fix yours? She smiled again, ice cold. I just wanted you to feel what I felt. Replaced. Insignificant. Invisible. I shook my head. You did that all by yourself. She blinked. And for the first time I saw it. Not rage. Not pride. Fear. For just a flicker of a second, Margot looked small. Alone. I picked up the photo. So Elias dumped you? He said I was manipulative. Said I reminded him of his ex. Ouch. I lost everything. I nodded slowly. No. You gave it up. One little lie at a time. She crossed her arms. What do you want? An apology. No, I said. I want you to know that I'm not afraid of you anymore. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I took a deep breath. You can keep the boxes. I'm done carrying them. And I turned to leave. After that, I didn't hear from her again for a while. She moved out of state again. Word was she tried to start a new real estate business, but it flopped. She kept her social media private. Mom said she'd get a postcard every few months. Nothing warm. Just proof of life. I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her. Sometimes I think about how we used to talk to each other in code when we were kids. How one look could mean let's sneak cookies or cover for me or I need you. Somewhere along the way, we stopped speaking the same language. She started writing stories that painted me as a villain so she could play the hero. But I never wanted her spotlight. I just wanted peace. And that's what I got. Rena and I moved into a small apartment above the bookstore where I now worked part-time. We filled it with secondhand furniture, thrifted art, and mismatched dishes that somehow made it feel like home. He still fixed things. I still wrote. We argued about paint colors and groceries and what to name the stray cat that kept showing up on our fire escape. We named her Biscuit. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Sometimes people ask me what happened with my sister. I just smile and say, she taught me how to fight for myself. And that's the truth. In the end, Margot didn't lose because of me. She lost because she never figured out the difference between having it all and being whole. As for me, I didn't need revenge to hurt her. I just needed to stop needing her. And that's the sweetest revenge there is.